Matsuo Basho. Uraumiya sadoni yokoto amanogawa. Araumiya sadoni yokoto amanogawa. Stormy sea. Milky Way reaches Sado Island. Stormy sea. Milky Way reaches Sado Island. Uzburkano more, kumovska slama seže do sada. Uzburkano more, kumovska slama seže do sada. Domo arigato gozaimashita.
I'd like to just wait here for a moment. Steve, have you got the wandering mic? Oh, there we are. This one back to you. Could I borrow up here for a moment first, if I may? Well, as I said, you would find inspiration and elevation, and that was really magnificent. I don't want to, in fact, I feel almost sacrilegious to be asking a question, but being pragmatic, I can't avoid it. And we have plenty of time for questions and reflection before the coffee break, so please take the opportunity to ask the Ambassador what is in your mind and what your concerns are about what he's been saying. But may I ask you a practical question? I totally subscribe to the concept you've been developing of haiku consciousness. My problem is how at the level of where people live just in their daily lives, how to bring something of that awareness. For example, would it be through education, or could it be, or can it not be done through education? What are the steps that are needed for society or organizations to take to cultivate that type of awareness, which, as you have pointed out, has a great deal to do with the moral and spiritual survival of the human race?
But sometimes, thank you for your question, sometimes I'm pretty shocked by the attitudes in the world around us. Sometimes I said it to Sadakazu Tanigaki, who is the opposition leader of the LDP at the moment in Japan. He's a great friend and the president of Parliamentary League Japan, Croatia Friendship League. The way how people behave today, very often in very oblivious way, they just look, they are set in a path of the, I would say, materialistic path, which totally disregards their human, their spiritual needs. And for me, spirit is one that is first, and material things come after that. The spirit has created the material world. The world we live in, it's Maya, it's appearance, pure appearance, but something is much more meaningful behind it that we can hardly cope with, and the only way is how to survive is to try to recognize it and to nurture it. And how to do it in life, sorry, I'll come back to Sadakazu Tanigaki, I'm still jet-lagged, and I told him, world behaves, I can see the world, as I said before, Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. The other metaphor that comes to me and that I told him was Titanic. Everybody pours champagne, music is going on, we are all happy and dancing around, and the iceberg is just behind the corner. I sometimes think that there is not enough people who would be willing to say the iceberg is just behind the corner, and we all go happily on with our ordinary quotidian things. And sometimes I'm afraid that something terrible will happen. For example, like this in Tohoku region. It's something which came out of the nature, but sometimes you feel that nature itself gives some signals and signs that we should read and try to take care of and put it in our hearts. I think the answer is only education. That's education, education, and only education. So how shall we do it, and what's the way? How should society organize itself to have a lot of concerned and humanistically oriented and good teachers? I don't think that we are paying too much attention to teachers, that we are paying them well. Education is not something which is priority, but it should be priority in society. And without education, we cannot go in the direction that we would like to go. We will always be reacting to some problems instead of behaving in a more prophylactic way. Problem of politics. Politics should be common good agenda activity, and it was in some times. But nowadays, the standing of politics and politicians is so low that we all feel even disdain and kind of contempt for them. But what is dealing with common good agenda should be extremely important. Politics today, democratic kind of politics, where you people submit themselves to you, you vote for them. The thing is that very often politicians behave in a way that they want to get second elections. They are not concerned about real well-being of the people. And they will do something out of necessity to win elections. Maybe this is too harsh and I should not generalize. But I'll give an example. For politicians, it's more beneficial to have house on fire to extinguish fire in the house which has got on fire than to prevent the fire. If you prevent the fire, nobody of people will know that you prevented it. You will not get any credit or kudos for next election. So preventive politics or preventive behavior is terribly lacking in our democratic world, wherever democracy exists as such. How to make democracy to be prophylactic, to be preventive, to be thoughtful, to have people who are not concerned about elections, who are only concerned about the well-being of the people. I'm sure there are people like that, but even media do not help us to find them out. They would rather write about terrible examples, about terrible situations, and very rarely about those who we should elevate and put as examples in the front of us and to follow them in certain ways. I could go on and on, but I think in a nutshell that's what it is, to create such circumstances in society that nobility of soul should be priority. Nobility of survival, nobility of our life, and thinking about future in a more spiritual than materialistic way.
Thank you very much. Maybe could I ask a kind of sub-question, and then I'll have to hand over to anyone else in the floor who would like to raise an issue. The sense of the contemporary world that
yes.
you've spoken about, running through my mind is the point that in every way in the last 200 years, human civilization has moved forward more quickly than in the previous 8,000.
Yes.
From the wheel to steam
yes.
engines took what, how many thousand years, but from steam to electricity and so on. And then within that framework, the growth of the concept of economic power. And the fact that now half of newspapers are devoted to economic issues and money being made here, money being made there, charts, indices of funds and flows and stocks and so on. Would you say that this is a particular form of the disease that is affecting us at the moment? Obviously, there have been different types and different phases, but is this the one, and in what way, again going back to the point about the spirituality of the haiku, in what way is it possible to counter this, and I find personally the dominant influence of economic thinking on everything so great that it blinds people to all the other realities and possibilities of life. Is there any way that this could be countered by?
But you know, we should study human nature and find out what is it what moves us. And people are people, they are very, very prone to behave in this way, to look for benefits, for profit, they are somehow greedy. But I think what we must do is create conditions in which the other part of human nature should be encouraged to, because total disbalance is ruling the world at the moment. And this, I would say, goodness side is somehow, I don't want to sound like some kind of preacher, but the goodness is somehow, if you are good, if you are noble character, if you spend your life for some good cause, etc., you look as if you are a little bit of a moron and that something is wrong with you. So the way how media created a picture of people who, for example, I remember when I met Mother Teresa in India, she was in terrible state at that time because Christopher Hitchens, who writes for Nation, has published a book called Missionary Position, in which he said that she is medically incompetent, that she is that her finances are non-transparent, and so on and so on. And she was very, very weak at that moment, very terrified by that, although she doesn't care what people write about her in general, but she's human at the end. And she told me and complained about it. And she said, you know, and I helped so many people, I'm doing my best. Even nobody even speaks against this. So, for example, while I was working at the Royal Free Hospital in London as medical doctor, we would call it in London TLC, tender loving care. So that's what Mother Teresa did fantastically. Isn't tender loving care something which is important? For me it is. She would take those people from the street, she would wash them, put in normal, clean clothes, give them water and food. She had sisters. There was one Croatian sister who was medical doctor and was really dealing with patients in the most remarkable and dedicated way. I saw Titigar Kaligat, I went around, and she had many also nurses, so it was not true what he was saying. But anyhow, that was something which went around the world, and everybody was writing about it at the time. And finances, yes, she probably didn't do things properly in out, but she told me I could not take money with me wherever I go after. So she brought all rice with that. You see, sometimes we are too, I would say, particularly negative in all sorts of ways. And I thought that that was so unjust and that she did a remarkable job.